Yo, what up, YouTube? It's Richawd back with another video. We 3 for 3 today. It's had a lot on my mind, and what I want to talk about in this video is the No Kings protests. Now, here's the thing, bro. Y'all got to understand what they have y'all out there doing. I keep telling y'all, these liberals, these groups, really, I don't even want to paint it to liberals or Republicans or whatever. It's these groups because, like I always tell you guys, I'm in the middle with these things. I'm always looking for what's true, what's right, And the liberal party is not in the black person's favor at all. If you talk to most black people and get their, raw, candid thoughts, most black people are conservative. Most black people, if you were to just have a conversation with them and ask them, what are your values? At least what they would tell you, right? What are your values, right? Are you pro-life, right? Do you believe in building things and trying to get ownership? Black people, they talk about this black excellence, black excellence, that. I seen this one person I used to go to school with. He posted on, he had posted on social media, and, he was taking pride. He was like, talking about how, his work career has been going, and, he was just happy and prideful about being, the only black person working at some corporate office he's at. That's the problem with black people. You want to be sitting at the table with the white man. You don't want to rule. And that's why the white man doesn't respect you. And that's why, I don't have respect for a lot of black people's mentalities, because you talk a good talk. You talk this whole, we come from kings, and, we want our reparations and all this stuff. And you talk about how mighty we was or are, but you don't show it, right? You don't show it when you take pride in being the only black person at a white corporation. What does that even mean? Well, you don't own anything. You're just a puppet there. They tell you to do something, you have to go do it. That's why blacks aren't respected. I'm having a conversation with this one, white associate that I knew back in the day from my California days. And we having a debate about, King Charles V, and rather, where he comes from. And this white dude was trying to tell me that King Charles V is some inbred from some white dude, this, that, and the third. And I'm telling him, no, King Charles was a black man who blew up the Bam, and blacks ruled Rome. And he's basically saying that, basically all blacks come from whites, which we all know is ass backwards. We all know, anybody who follows history knows that that's ass backwards. But this is the mentality of a lot of white people, and this is the mentality of a lot of racist white people, because this is a racist white person. Majority of the people that I called my friends that I rode with back in California were racist. If you associate with racists, what does that make you? Me, I can't be around the racist. If you're racist, I don't want nothing to do with you. The only way I'll be in your environment is if, say, I work with you or something like that. Then I'm forced to keep things cordial with you. But in no way will I be breaking bread with somebody who's racist. So my eyes was open, and I realized a lot of people around me was just racist. And, that made sense of why they were always hating on me and trying to compete and trying to outdo me in things, But but never could. But you see, it's a mindset thing with so-called black people, bro. That is our problem, bro. We have this mindset of wanting to get a hug and wanting to get acceptance from the white man. That's why when white people, do racist things or say quote unquote racist things, black people be so offended. As black people, you shouldn't be offended by what white people say. As me as a so-called black man, I don't give a damn what the so-called white man thinks about me, bro, because I know the truth. I know what they come from. I know what the word slave comes from. It comes from Slavic. I know they come from the caves, I know they came and they served us. They were our servants. I know back in our kingdoms, the black rulers, they will make the so-called whites battle it out, duke it out, and whoever survived, right? On some gladiator shit. This is where the gladiators come from. The so-called blacks will have the whites battle it out like some gladiators, and whoever survived would get the honor of serving in a royal black kingdom, right? But the royal black kingdoms fell due to, they had wars. Just as you see today, so-called black people don't get along. It's been going on for decades. There's nothing new under the sun. Back in those days, blacks didn't get along, and it was jealousy and envy going on. So our kingdoms fell with us fighting amongst each other. It wasn't just the white man. We was fighting amongst each other. That's why I tell y'all, we made it easy for the white man to come rule, because we wasn't in unison. We were divided because we were following other gods, and that led to us falling. A lot of black people, y'all see a lot of this zesty stuff going on today. That stuff was going on back in the day. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of the people they tell y'all in history that was white was actually black. That's why, white people like this white dude I'm debating with, they have this, false ego, and they feel like they above niggas because they think they always ruled us and we were always slaves. That's why he doesn't want to accept that King Charles V was a black ruler. He was a king. He wasn't just no slave. We wasn't just no slaves, but he's been taught the narrative, and he believes the narratives that blacks ain't shit and we the white man's slave, and that's not true. And I was trying to, have a conversation with the brother, because like I said, I don't duck no smoke, but it's clear he has his mind made up on what he believes, and he's delusional about it, because I sent them pictures, and I have facts to back up what I'm saying. I'm not just talking out my ass, and I've been doing a lot of reading lately. I just spent, a little over $100 just ordering books about, black rulership in Rome and black rulership in Spain, and, who was Esau, things like that. Like, always learning. And this is why, like, I even had somebody in my comment section, they was like, Richawd, how do you know Esau was white? How do you not know Esau was white? Look up the book, Who Was Esau? You know what I'm saying? It'll show you. Do some reading, bro. Books are not very expensive. Books are not very expensive. They hide a lot of these things from y'all, but it's really not hidden. It's in plain sight. You just got to go search for it. But Esau was clearly white. You know what I'm saying? And not only the Bible, but there's many other books that, depict Esau as being white, but my point with the No Kings parades, it's just another gimmick, it's just another, embarrassing thing. We got black people, you're fighting so hard for these illegals, but the majority of these illegals be racist and don't give a damn about black people, bro. They trying to rule. They have the mentality, they trying to rule. They come in here, they trying to rule. They don't give a damn about black people for real. You think if black people went to these other countries, you think if black people went to Mexico, or if black people went to China, or if black people went to Spain or Europe, you think them white people will be fighting for us to stay in their country? You know what I'm saying? You think they'll be going that hard for another race and not their own people? Absolutely not. But it's black people that have been so dumbed down, where you going to fight for some people that wouldn't even fight for you. You fighting for illegals when they wouldn't even fight for you. You see illegals in person, most of them don't even, not all, it's some cool illegals, but some of them won't even talk to you, or they can't talk to you. They don't speak the language, but you fighting for them. When they here in survival mode, they just trying to survive. They don't give a damn about you. They care about their family and their people and them making it. And that should be our mentality. See, my problem with the No Kings parade is this. Donald Trump can't be a king. You know what a king is? You see, this is how I know a lot of you guys don't know no history. When kings were in rulership, when dictatorships was in rulership, I have no problems with dictatorships, right? God is a dictator. You know what I'm saying? And in order for laws to be enforced, you have to be a dictator, right? There has to be harsh consequences for not following these laws. You know what I'm saying? So in a kingdom where there's actual kings, if there was to be a protest in your kingdom, right? Because this is what y'all saying. Y'all saying Donald Trump is a king. If Donald Trump was a king and he's seeing y'all protesting, what kings would do, you would be beheaded for being anti the kingdom, right? You would get beheaded for something like that. You know what I'm saying? You would get beheaded for something like that. You know what I'm saying? So that just proves, my bad, it's getting foggy in here. That just proves that Donald Trump is not a king, bro. Because if he was a king, he would have sent the troops to all those places where people was protesting and had all the people beheaded. That's what kings do, right? Donald Trump is not a king. Donald Trump is just, he's just bait for the most part. You know what I'm saying? He has to take orders just like anybody else. Liberals in charge, they blame the Republicans. Republicans in charge, they blame the liberals. Same old script going on over and over again. And you people still don't think it's bigger fish we got to fry, other than what Trump is doing. And if you like Trump, I don't care about if I like the president or not. All they ask is scum and racist for the most part. I just look at policies. I thought Trump's policies, and I still think Trump's policies and Republican policies are better than liberal policies right now, because they're geared more towards things that make sense. I don't want laws where goddamn my little boy or my little girl is going to be in the bathroom with a man. Like, this is the stuff that liberals are pushing. I don't want laws where they're saying, oh, a man can have a kid. I want things that make sense. Republican, you know what I'm saying, conservative values make more sense to me. And it makes more sense to the average black people. But you still follow liberal because you've been told, my grandma been following liberals. My great grandma been following liberals. My granddad, so I got to follow the liberals. It was the liberals that freed the slaves. It was the liberals that passed the civil rights laws, when none of that has helped us, you know. See, the problem is we got to get back to wanting ownership, bro. You know, the things that kingdoms fell over land and ownership, right? Over pride, right? That's what it's all about, bro. Until we get back into that mentality to where you're trying to own things. See, I like what LeBron is trying to do with trying to start his own league. We need more niggas thinking like that. We're clearly, you know what I'm saying? We're clearly favored in these leagues. These leagues, you know, they clearly go out and seek out so-called black athletes to be in their leagues because we bring money, we bring revenue to their leagues. Before blacks were allowed to be in the NBA was damn near going bankrupt, right? Blacks are the majority in the NFL. We're clearly a favorite because of our athletic and our explosive abilities, right? And also our mental capabilities. Right, that part they don't like to mention, but they always talk about how we're freak athletes. But look at how people like Michael Jordan and Floyd Mayweather and people like that, they were also very gifted mentally. They had a very high IQ when it came to their sport, you know. But my point being, I like what LeBron is trying to do with trying to start his own league. We the talent, bro. Right? Why are we in leagues that they control when we're the talent, when we're the ones that they go seek out and they go recruit? They want us, so we should have our own league. Let them do their own thing. You know, that's my mentality, ownership. And that's my problem with y'all no Kings people. Y'all don't want no ownership, bro. Y'all don't want things that make sense. And most importantly, what is really all about is y'all don't want to serve God. That's why y'all so against kings. Because when you read up in that Bible, all they tell you about is kings. all they tell you about is kings and how they rose and fell. They flaws, they strengths, they weaknesses. That's what the Bible's all about. But y'all don't want to believe that. You know what I'm saying? But deep down in your soul, you know it's real, right? Y'all are so against abortions. What's so bad? Why y'all so against abortions, bro? See, with them regulating abortions, what that would do is that'll bring back the family structure. That'll make women and men have to stop hoeing as bad. That'll bring more order to the land. The land is out of order because people are just moving off of their feelings. You know what I'm saying? Their heart, you know, and not moving off of what God wants the people to move off of, you know? So there's not enough families being built. I think there's nothing wrong with kids and children. Right? Like I said, you have to look at your kids. You have to look at your sons as an asset. You have a son. Now, this is a future inheritor of your business. That's supposed to be our mentality. Not, oh, I have a son. This is going to cost me too much money. No. How can I turn my son into an asset for my business? How can I train my son and teach my son certain trades so he can further and build on the business? Right? You should look at your kids as assets because they're royal. Your seed line is royal. Anything you have is royal. You shouldn't be looking at them like a liability, and that lowers the self-esteem as your kid because they feel like they're not wanted. They feel like they're a burden. They feel like they're a liability when they should feel like an asset. You should be training them from their youth that you're going to be an asset to this family. You're going to be an asset to this world. You're not a burden. You're a blessing, right? That's why so many kids walking around with a low self-esteem, depression, because their parents made them feel like a liability and not a blessing. But the No Kings parades, all it is anti-God. That's why the majority of the people out there, most of them, he, they, them, it, you know, it's clear as day what's going on. They're anti, you know, order. They're anti-God. They're anti, you know what I'm saying, family and structure. That's what they're anti. Anybody who's in love with abortions, you're in love with unaliving, you know, your own womb. You know, your own child. You're for, you know, the depopulation agenda. Abortion was brought in to depopularize, right? Governments were brought in to depopularize. We shouldn't have a government. We should govern our own people. Kings governed their own people. And if you didn't want to follow that king, you had to either take that king out or go start your own kingdom somewhere else. Right. But if you wanted to serve and be under the king, you had to follow the king's rules, because that's the only way a kingdom can stand. If you have a kingdom and people don't respect the kingdom won't stand. Right. There's nothing wrong with dictatorships. We actually need to get back to dictatorships, but they want to teach y'all to be so. See, they programmed you to be ass backwards. They flipped the world upside down. They've programmed you to think backwards. They've programmed you to think abortions are bad. They've programmed women to think staying at home and being a wife at home is bad. They've programmed you to be so against all the things that help us be great. That's the problem. Right, so y'all can protest the no kings and all that. And y'all can continue to scream and be upset and, you know, do the typical liberal things. But people like me, I'm looking for the real answers, bro. And I know the real answers is in ownership. The real answers is in business. The real answer is in knowledge. You should try to become as knowledgeable in as many things as possible. Me, I want to learn as many things as possible. I want to learn how to fix cars so I can fix my own car when it breaks down. I want to learn about history. I want to learn how to fix houses. I want to learn how to do as many things as I can learn. I want to learn all the languages. I want to learn Hebrew so I can read the Hebrew Bible. I want to learn. There be people that be bored, and it's like, how are you bored? There's so much you could be doing. There's so much you could be learning. But that shows when you're soulless, when you're lacking purpose. You know, I seen somewhere on Instagram, it was this one dude talking about how he got all this money, but he be bored. He don't be knowing what to do with the money. He don't be knowing what to do with the time. That's because you're soulless. You put everything into that money, and now it feels empty. Because the money ain't everything. The money is just a tool. But you've made the money an idol. But I'm going to go ahead and end it there, bro. We 3 for 3 today. You know, the No Kings Parade, bro, is another gimmick, another fluff. It ain't doing nothing. It ain't bettering nothing. Has things gotten any better since the No Kings Parades? Or is it just a bunch of angry, weirded out people? You know what I'm saying? Demonic ass people out there rallying together. You know, just like the Black Lives Matter parades, bunch of weird ass people rallying together. You know, that's all I see, bro. I don't see people looking for solutions. And it's no offense to anybody who may be in support of that. All I'm saying is you need to do more research, because what you're supporting isn't furthering anything. What you're supporting isn't helping anything. Right. You need to be supporting being anti-government. You need to be supporting governing your own people. You need to be in support of getting back into farming. Right. Things that I'm trying to promote, things that I'm trying to push people to do. Ownership. You need to be pro, you know, not this system and not selling out for money. There's so many black people that sell out their likeness. Michael Jordan, as great as he is, he sold his likeness. Right. So Michael Jordan's kids got to live off of Michael Jordan's. They don't have their own identity. And when Michael Jordan goes, everything he has is going to go, because it's not owned by Michael Jordan. He can't pass the Jordan brand down to his kids. It's not his, it's Nike's. Right? LeBron can't pass the LeBrons down to his kids. It's not his, it's Nike's. That's why he's in a lifetime contract with Nike. LeBron, KD, all them niggas in a lifetime contract. You've signed over your likeness for life. That's why LeBron's so scared of going broke, because he knows he really don't own nothing. He's owned. It's all about ownership, bro. That's our problem. That's why we're not respected. That's why we're so lied to, because we don't want to take on the you know, the challenge of, you know, taking our rulership back, right? Becoming kings again. Governing our own people, having our own laws that we stand by, right? So we don't have to serve somebody else in somebody else's system when their system is designed to keep us at the bottom. And a few people they allow to sit at the table, you don't have no real power. When real conversations are had, they treat you like a child. Like the so-called liberal black woman, or the so-called black woman gets treated in a lot of these work environments that she go to school for all these years and work so hard to get into. You get into those work environments, and when real conversations has to get had, they treat you like a child. They don't value your voice, because you're just a pawn. You're not there to move the needle. But the No Kings Parade, it ain't helping with nothing. I'm out.